Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ignite, Awaken, Expand podcast. My name is Carrie Michelle, and today I have such a magical human here to be able to conversate with, play with, and just expand our consciousness with. Maya Luna. Oh my gosh, welcome. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Like beyond excited. I came across your work just a couple of months ago. A friend of mine knows how much the type of work that you do just turns me on, and I absolutely love it. And so she sent it to me, and it was Holy Darkness on Spotify. 100% recommend going and just binging on her beautiful poetry that she has there. And I fell in love. It
Mm,
was just literally speaking to every cell in my body, this remembrance and this waking up to the deliciousness of the things that we fear and the
yeah.
things that have so much taboo, so much shame. I mean, you eloquently touch on these things that are
Mm,
people are so afraid to go there, but you put this beautifulness to it and this desire to want to embrace it, love it, see it in a different light, so to say, even though it's the darkness.
mm.
So this, just thank you for coming into my life and just blessing me with your powerful words that create, and you share this, that you it creates a pattern disrupt. And it really truly does. This way that we're programmed to believe and see certain things that you are so passionate to talk on, it just creates this disrupt of, oh wait, what if it's different than what I've been programmed to believe?
Yes,
And you
yes.
just do that so beautifully. So thank you.
Gosh, I mean, I have to tell you, it's very rare that I get to have the experience of someone articulating my work back to
Mm.
me in such an accurate way. I feel like you really get what I'm about. It's kind of breathtaking to behold. And
Mm.
I think what I would add to it is that my essentially my framework is that we live in this paradigm that we could call patriarchy, which is where we've been
Mhm.
disconnected from the feminine, from the true principle, the true essence of the feminine, the goddess. And so all of these things that we sort of like the water we don't know we're swimming in, all these things that we think are dirty or wrong, or we pathologize it or we demonize it. If we actually shift from a different perception, it becomes this very sacred doorway, full of not only wisdom, but I think this nectar that kind of restores life to something holy,
Mhm.
something
Yes.
sacred, just this life as we are. So much of spirituality and religion has been this attempt to, rid ourselves of the human experience and what it is to just be incarnated, be alive, be in
Mhm.
a body, be walking this earth. And that's what I call the realm of the feminine.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. There's so much morality around what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, and then it creates so much meaning and attachment or resistance to certain things in our life. And when we can fully embrace all of it, that's when the magic happens, and we really truly come alive, and we get
Mm,
to see the sacredness of all of it, not just the
mm,
light and the bliss and the joy, but our deepest pain, our shame, our sadness, our depression, all of it is happening for us. And it's all really beautiful if we choose to see it that way. And that's just something that your poems and your work is here to wake us up to.
mm. I feel so gotten.
Yeah, good. I'm so glad that you're able to receive that, because it's why I'm so excited to be able to talk to you, because this is something that I've been so passionate about, something that I talk about when I was on social media, it was something that was very consistent, was talking about sexuality and the divine feminine and what that even is. And a lot of times we think of the divine feminine as like, goddess. And no, there's this calliness to it as well. We're all of it. And being able to include all parts of us
Mm.
in the feminine is
Mm.
literally, like, it's the goal. It's our natural state.
Mm.
And so just fully including all parts of us. One of your poems is All of You, which is one of my favorites. I don't know if I could pick one specific one that I'm like, this one is the one, because then I'll listen to the next one after that. I'm like, no, this is the one. But definitely Darkness is one of my favorites. I will listen to that one on repeat. It's just,
That's a strong one. I think a lot of people are probably scared of that one. So
yeah, even the
much
music,
respect.
is like, oh, this is it just adds the richness to the whole experience of your words with the music behind it. But when you really truly listen to the words, it's such a beautiful, elegant way of explaining what the darkness is. And it's actually been a road that I've been on recently, is really changing the way that I'm viewing my darkness and my experiences that I've kind of pushed against and resisted, and instead leaning in and seeing the beauty of it.
Hmm.
So that's
And I
that
think
poem really resonates.
it's really important that we uncouple, darkness has been used interchangeably with evil.
Yeah.
And I actually do believe that evil is real, and I do believe that morality is real. So I'm not one of these people that's just like everything goes and everything is God. I actually do think that there are lines around what is wrong.
Yeah.
But calling darkness evil, right,
Mm-hmm.
is just obviously so. There's so much white supremacy. There's so much racism.
Mm.
There's so much light supremacy embedded and
Mm.
encoded in that association.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
we need a new definition and a new understanding and connection, I think, with even that word, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
What would you describe as a definition of darkness?
Gosh, I almost I don't want to like depotentize it by,
Mm-hmm.
claiming it, but let me just tune in here and see what wants to come. Hmm. Honestly, I could say so many different things. I could say so many different things. But I think what I want to say right now is there is a fertility and a fecundity and a wildness to the raw organic principles of creation. And that is something that human beings, and especially religion and spirituality, have been trying to conquer and control and get rid of for a very long time. So let's just for now call the darkness the groundless nature of reality,
Mm.
the wildness of reality, the fertile, deep, fecund, space where true life arises from, where the organic arises from, something that is more powerful than our own will. And I think
Mm.
that's really important because we have become a culture that worships the will, that worships the conqueror. And
Mm-hmm.
even spirituality has this, and it's sort of the water we don't know we're swimming in. To be spiritual is to be in your God self, which means to gain like mastery and control over your life,
Mm.
right? This is
Mm-hmm.
what I call patriarchal spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we enter the feminine path, which is also the path of the dark, um, and this is what we're going to talk about today, I think, the sacred wound of incarnation is one piece of this. It's like coming into recognition that our will is not God. Our will is not God. And our will is actually limited. Like, it's real. We have the ability to influence reality and make things happen and innovate and impact. And it is fundamentally limited and less powerful than life herself.
Yes.
Things happen beyond our control
Yes.
all the time. Our own soul journey of seeding, blossoming, wilting, blooming, dying, fading, this all has its own intelligent rhythm and timing that is not something that we can necessarily force or make or prevent. So it's like, really,
Mm.
this, what is the spiritual gnosis that happens when we bow down before that which is more powerful than us, that which we can never fully conquer, that
Mm.
there is a blessing in never being able to fully conquer, that it's not a bad thing, it's only a bad thing to the perception of the conqueror that wants to conquer life and colonize life and control life. That actually this is where we start meeting like real spiritual gnosis. And this is what I call the path of the feminine.
Mm.
It's like, what happens when we go beyond our platitudes? There's a lot of platitudes in spirituality around like everything happens for a reason
Yeah.
and everything's meant to be. Okay, maybe, but what turns me on, what makes me curious is the way that we use those ideas to protect ourselves from something,
Mm-hmm.
protect ourselves from the vulnerability and the tenderness of how radically out of control we actually are, of
Mm-hmm.
how absolutely fragile and wild and tender it is to be in a body, to be alive. So on the feminine path, right? So here's where darkness comes in again, right? Like we could call all of that, darkness, as in like bad and evil. Oh, the fact that we die, the fact that there's mortality, the fact that things happen beyond our control, the fact that like, negative and bad things happen. It's all darkness, right?
Mm.
Bad, evil, wrong, something to purify, something to fix, something to conquer, something to control. So on the feminine path, we're actually turning towards everything that has been considered, some kind of wound
Mm.
or problem with what it means to be alive. And we're saying, yes, this is holy.
Mm.
This is holy. The fact that I'm not fully in control is holy.
Mm.
The fact that I'm going to die is holy. The fact that I don't know when I'm going to die is holy. The fact that I can't control everything that happens is holy.
Yes.
Because when we open to those things, there is just, of course, the first layer is like the fear, the avoidance, the resistance, the vulnerability that we don't want to feel because we've been indoctrinated into this conqueror, colonizer paradigm. But if we keep going through that and keep opening our hearts, we meet the mother, like we meet the goddess, we meet the mystery.
Mm.
And there's something about like spirituality becomes like it's intimate because it's personal now.
Oh my gosh.
So I
I
just kind of
could
went off
literally
there.
sit here and just let you just talk for the whole time. Oh, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I mean, what gets touched in you when you hear all of this? I'm curious, like what bubbles up?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes through is this realization of how far I've come, because I think that the Carrie a couple of years ago would have a little bit of resistance, confusion, just not fully being able to soak in and absorb the words that you were sharing as, yes, yes, I get that. And what you're sharing with me feels like truth to my system. And not only that, but there's this full accepting of it. There's this, it feels like I can take a breath of relief of, yeah, okay, so I don't have to do that conqueror, that I need to make these things happen, and I need to make impact, and whatever it is that the conqueror feels like they need to conquer. It's like yes and no.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
both.
The yes and is really important because,
Yeah,
of course, we want to keep creating. We want to keep healing. We want to keep fighting for what's right. We want to keep growing. We want to keep blessing the world. Like, this isn't a path of defeat, you
right.
know? But it's a path of staying awake to what I call the sacred wound of incarnation,
Mm-hmm.
or our holy brokenness. So
Mm.
one thing that's really, I think, kind of a direct awakening here is, look around you at how hard everyone, including you,
Mm-hmm.
is working to try to get somewhere. Some enlightened, healed, happy, whole, perfect. There's sometimes it's unconscious and unspoken. Sometimes it's very direct and people are
Mm-hmm.
very aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we're going to some final place where things are going to be different than they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to feel, I don't know, let's just say happy, in control, on top of things, got it together, fulfilled, whole. And yet no one ever arrives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ever.
Yes.
Everyone is always, you know, it's like as brilliant as we are, as powerful as we are, as creative as we are, all that is so true and so real. And we're also, neurotic and we
Mm-hmm.
have our patterns and our vulnerabilities and our existential ache and our own like tenderness, just being alive and like not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
and and what I'm trying to say is that's not a problem.
Right. Right.
That's not a bad thing. What we're trying to do is get away and get to something, some idealization that actually is not what being alive is. Like it's just literally, that's why no one ever gets there, is because it's not what being
Mhm.
alive
It's
is.
not about getting there. And we think so much that it is. And it's so, that was something that when I was shared that truth years ago, that you can never get it done, Carrie, I was so angry. I was
Mm.
so angry because it's like, that doer in me, that perfectionist, that part of me that's so driven and wants to conquer, was
Yeah,
so angry. It's
right.
like, then what am I even doing all of this for? And
Yeah.
that's the great paradox. It's like we have this innate desire to improve and understand and grow and expand.
Mhm.
And then there's this truth that, and you'll never get it done. There's always more, which is so delicious and frustrating at the same time, because it's like, I'm never going to be complete. There
Mm.
will always be more that I get to explore and uncover and experience. But
Mm-hmm.
that, that part that wants to be complete is like, it's got to be nurtured and loved on, because it's going to be something that will really hold you back in fully experiencing all of the deliciousness of the never getting it doneness.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah.
There's a poem that I actually just listened to last night on YouTube that you read, and it was so beautiful. It was called "The Wound of Love,"
Mm-hmm.
and it was so delicious to hear your words of this utter surrender to all of your brokenness, all of the wounds, like fully being in that and allowing yourself to be all of who you are and all of your experience. And it's like, can we come to that place where we can fully accept all of it, all
Yeah.
of it.
Well, and that's another place where it's very powerful to just look around you and go, do I know anyone that is healed in the
Yeah,
sense of what we fantasize healing is? Do I know anyone that isn't wounded? No,
mm-mm,
not even spiritual teachers, not spiritual gurus, not therapists, not healers. Everybody carries something.
mm-hmm,
And we walk with it our whole lives,
mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm.
And this is where I think it just gets so, we kind of have to slow down because we're talking about seeing through a paradigm that we didn't even know we were inside of.
Mm,
That's like the water we don't know we're swimming in.
mm,
So let me just try to articulate this piece of it. It's not that there's, you know, always more healing to do and we just haven't quite completed it yet. It's more like there's something about our fantasy projection of what we think being healed is,
mm,
what we think being awake is, what we think being enlightened is. There's something in that fantasy and projection that is um, can never, ever, ever be achieved
mm,
by any human being because it is not what being alive is.
yeah, yeah,
Did I explain that correctly?
mhm,
Do you feel what I'm
yeah.
saying?
It's not the point. It's not the point of this experience.
Yeah, we're inside of um, we're inside of something as incarnated beings, right? These souls that come into body that are mortal, that are subject to the passing of time, are subject to what the Buddhists call groundlessness, which is the fact that reality is always changing,
Mhm,
impermanence, always changing, always changing, always changing. This is the truth, you know, of, of what we live inside of. We can't ever change it. It's just a fact.
mhm,
And because of that, I think there is always going to be a rawness, it's like an ache in your heart,
mm,
just this quiet kind of, like it's like exquisite beauty and grief and pain just being here,
mhm,
just not knowing,
mhm,
just feeling, just growing attached and having things come and go, and you know, and that is sacred.
mm,
That is sacred, and that's what I call feminine, the feminine
mm,
spiritual path. And most of spirituality has been trying to figure out how to conquer that condition, the human condition.
Mhm. I feel like that's a good segue into the one of the topics that we felt like we wanted to discuss today, which is the sacred wound of incarnation. And
Mhm.
so I would love for you to just give your definition, description of what that means to you.
Yeah. I'd love to read a poem too.
Yes.
So let me just feel if I should read the poem. I'll read the poem first.
Beautiful. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
I'll read the poem first, and then I'll see if I can unpack it. So first, I just want to say that part of my work, part of what I am passionate about, or just what my kind of zone of genius is that I take words, words that have been um, misappropriated and misunderstood in patriarchy. And hang on, I have to go to my Facebook page because I wrote this poem like 2 days ago. So it's just on my Facebook page.
It's fresh. I love it.
Really right. So words like whore,
Yes.
words like wound, words like rage, words like darkness. So part of my work is that I kind of like cleanse the patriarchy off of these words and then kind of deliver them, birth them into their more, sacred, true goddess essence.
I love that description of cleanse the patriarchy off of these words.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
such a good description. Yes. And that's what I feel when I listen to your words and your poems. That's exactly what I'm getting from you. So you're doing a fabulous job at doing that.
Thank you. It took me a while to figure out that that's what I was doing.
Mhm.
All right. Here is the poem. It's called There Is No Cure for the Reality of Incarnation. Everyone is glorious, radiant, brilliant, powerful, broken, neurotic, fragile, confused. Have you noticed? Every single person is a beautiful, brilliant, flaming, hot mess. Have you ever met a human being who wasn't? Nearly every paradigm of healing, of personal development, of religion or spirituality has this one thing in common: a rejection of the reality of what it means to be alive. A fantasy of perfection, always just on the horizon. Everyone is going, everyone wants to get there, yet no one ever arrives. The goddess of reality, sacred immanence, and holy incarnation. We have demonized her, pathologized her. We have sought to transcend and escape her, tried to purify her and improve her into something she never was and never will be. We worship the conqueror even though we never conquer. What is the glory that is known only inside defeat? It's a beautiful mess down here. It always was and always will be. No one is ever not broken. And how could it be any other way? Life pulls us apart. We put ourselves together and get pulled apart again. We are mortal beings wed to gravity and time, stitched with fragile, tender skin, with a heart that feels and needs and never truly knows. The fantasy of purification is everywhere. The delusion of being able to win and conquer life is everywhere. It's what everyone is selling. Religion, spirituality, consumerism, self-improvement. It's the carrot on the stick that misses the glory of the goddess right under your nose. Everyone is going, but no one ever arrives. So keep fighting, keep healing, keep creating, keep dreaming, but stay awake to your holy brokenness. Your forever brokenness entwined with holy perfection. Open your eyes and see how glorious and damaged every single person is. Embrace a vision of healing that includes the wholeness within the wound. Bow to the crazy wisdom, mistress of creation. There is no cure for the reality of incarnation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There is no cure.
That's right. So again, to go into the feminine reality, we have to actually like flip things upside down. So what I call feminine wisdom, goddess wisdom, organic wisdom, this wisdom that has been lost, that we've been disconnected and dissociated from in the last few thousand years of the era of patriarchy. The problem isn't the thing that we've made a problem. The problem is that we have problematized it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
That
Say that one more time, because that was really good.
Okay, I'm going to change it a little bit.
Yeah.
Much of what we have made a problem is actually not a problem. The problem is that we have made it a problem.
Yes. Yes.
So this is where the problem is that we have made it a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Can I read one more poem before we dive
please.
in? This one's
Yes.
shorter. Okay. This is from my book, which is on Amazon. It's called Omega, Feral Secrets of the Deep Feminine. Okay, this is called Chiron. Chiron is known as the wounded healer. It's like this. You were born from a wound, cut from safety, delivered into cold wind, received by broken hands. Wound is your origin. You are made from sacred thread, stretching back to the beginning of time, to the wound that broke this world into existence. So drink the nectar of never-ending grief. From your open wounds flow the dark winds of power. Throw away your mending tools. Drink deeply and receive. Your wound is a chalice overflowing with the elixir of life. You cannot heal it. It heals you. It heals you. What does that mean? It means that what we've called a wound, what we've called our brokenness, what we've called our vulnerability, our fragility, that has the power to heal the conqueror, that has the power to heal our delusion of arrogance, our separation, where we think we have to dominate life and conquer life and purify life. That can heal that part of us. So it's a real turnaround. And it's important too to name that this is not saying that, like healing from trauma and things aren't real. It is, that it's very real. But I think when we start to open into this vaster, sober honesty with what life is, and with the fact that, no one ever really arrives at this idealized, perfect place. Nobody. 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 That means that some of what we have considered a problem, broken, ugly, wounded, is just part of the intrinsic design of creation.
This is such a beautiful conversation. It's so divine for me personally, and I know anybody who's going to be listening to it, it's going to be just mind-blowing for their own experience and whatever it is that they're navigating. But for me personally, this has been the journey I've been on. Is all these words that you're sharing with me, it's landing deeper and deeper into my system of like, yes, this makes sense, and it releases this this expectation of who I am to be, and what does an evolved, expanded, healed Carrie look like.
Right.
There's this radical acceptance of inclusion of all parts of me, and that all parts of me are good and right, and that there's so much beauty in the pieces that I've had resistance, and the pieces that have created sensations of pain and suffering in my life, that from my own experience and process of looking at and feeling into and transmuting and healing, that it has become such intense wisdom in my being that I don't even have to say words. It's just an energy that it creates. And so in those moments of reflecting back on my process of really being with the wound, there is this deep appreciation and love and respect for it, because I would not be who I am without it.
Yes.
And so how can you not love it and fully accept it and appreciate it?
That's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that life molds us, not just through blessings, but through these bruises and nicks and scars. And how could it be any other way? It's very raw here.
It is.
We all get kind of banged up, and it does mold us just as much as, the blessings and the beauty, right? And I think also there's something interesting that just arises for me as I hear you speak, which is, I think that healing and transformation is real, but also, just like our will and our ability to impact reality, it's limited. And I don't think people really, I think especially in the like kind of spiritual personal self-development, people are just like so obsessed with like becoming something else. And the truth is that in many, 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 many ways, people don't change. Like think about it. Like there are things about you and there are things about me that no matter how much I want them to be something else, it ain't gonna happen. Like it's just like is me. Like it's like this is how I am. And what happens when we like really learn how to be ourselves, instead of constantly trying to like work on as though we're trying to get to some kind of purified, like idealized version of ourselves.
I feel like two words that are they just don't get enough credit for how powerful they are, because it just isn't super sexy, is acceptance and neutrality. Just
Yeah.
having this deep, deep acceptance of what is and who you are in this moment, and just having neutrality around that when we create the meaning of this is good or this is bad or this should be different or I want more of this, when we create the meaning, we lose the ability to really see just the beauty of what is, when we can just be in that neutrality
Yeah.
and acceptance.
Yeah. And kind of like, all right, how do I live my life knowing that this is what I'm working
Yeah.
with?
Yeah.
To take it from there. How do I create a life that like nourishes and supports this unique creature that I am? Very different than how do I become who I want to be or think I should be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it's a paradox because we are always going to want to strive and innovate and improve, and that's beautiful too. But, this, what I'm calling the feminine spiritual path, and one aspect of the sacred wound is this submission to what is,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Mm-hmm.
that's holy, that I'm holy as this weird, beautiful, messed up, being that I am.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
called being a human being. And it's,
So I'm curious.
yeah.
So something that's kind of coming up that I'm sure that maybe some of the people that are listening, I would be curious your kind of take on it is, when you fully accept, okay, this is me, these are my imperfections, these are my wounds, these are some of my character traits that society would see as flawed, and allowing yourself to just be that and accept that.
Mhm.
So I'm curious your take on people who are just like, well, this is just the way that I am, and just doing painful behaviors towards others just because it's like, deal with it, this is who I am. What's kind of your take on that?
Yeah, well, this is where I was kind of saying, like, that I actually believe in right and wrong and evil,
Yeah.
like, which is interesting because some people I think kind of misinterpret like this darkness. It's like, oh, it's all one and it's all God and all of it. And I actually feel very clearly that abuse is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like, period, you know? And if someone's harming other people, uh, hopefully they have empathy and conscience, enough empathy and conscience to go, whoa, I need to, you know, take a look in the mirror and make some changes here because it's not okay to harm people. And if they don't have the empathy and conscience to um, shift that, they can fuck off.
To put it
Honestly,
eloquently.
like
Yeah.
boundary,
Yes.
boundary.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where these things get so nuanced, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not. Again, it's just like it's such a different paradigm. And okay, so here's another piece. So what I call the sacred wound of incarnation. There's a lot of different threads to it. One thread is these personal wounds that we carry, right? These imperfections, like you said, our little neurosis, our little fucked up patterns, you know, that
Yeah.
like some of them will change and shift. Some of them, they're so for life.
Mhm.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thread. But the other thread, and perhaps the most important thread, is again, it's like I'm taking back the word wound and I'm reappropriating it
Mhm.
as just the rawness of being alive and how vulnerable we are. You know, and we don't like to look at that, I think. We like to kind of puff ourselves up and puff ourselves up and puff ourselves up, and as though there's something wrong with the grief of just being alive.
Mhm.
Like, really, you know, being this tender, vulnerable, out of control being that is subject to the wildness of life, the groundlessness of life, and perhaps the consciousness of the colonizer or the conqueror, which is also very connected to, you know, abuse and what you were naming as the, you know, what about people that do harm? Perhaps part of that archetypal reality is the rejection of tenderness. That if we embraced the pink, fleshy, raw, tender, aching part of us that is completely existing alongside, paradoxically, how powerful we are.
Mhm.
You know, if we embraced the raw, pink, fleshy, tender, vulnerable
Mhm.
state of being alive, of being incarnated, the way that the poem says life, you know, breaks us, pulls us apart, things change, things happen, we put ourselves together, we have it together for a moment, right? We all know that experience. We're like, woo, I got it. Like everything is like, woo, woo, woo. And then like something happens, you know?
Don't
And
got it.
that's literally what life is. Get on the horse, get knocked off, get on the horse, get knocked off forever, right?
Yes.
Forever.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we embraced that,
Mhm.
perhaps there would be less violence on other people. Because I think the acts of violence carry within them that innate rejection of the pink, fleshy tenderness that lives inside of us, you know?
Yes. I love that description. Pink, fleshy tenderness.
Yes.
And it's such a, when you allow yourself to be in that vulnerable space and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
be raw and real in whatever it is that you're experiencing and feeling, it's scary at first if it's something that you haven't been allowed
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
um, I'm very, very blessed that I live a life that is very open and raw, and I have people in my life who are fully accepting of it and embrace it, celebrate it. So I get to have those moments on a regular basis with my loved ones, with myself.
Mm.
Um, but when I have those moments, there's such a deep connection with me, my essence, my human, my soul, and then whoever is witnessing it. There's such a beautiful energetic exchange and witnessing of me or them, if they're the ones that are experiencing it, that is so sacred and so special to me that I desire more of those experiences, because in those moments, it's there's this awareness and realization that this is what it's about. This is what
Mm-hmm.
this life is about. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about the conquering.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being so open and raw and present with what is active and what is here for you or for them. And to
Mm.
be able to have those moments and to be able to create an experience for yourself or for other to feel safe to fully be in that, whether it's expressing your sacred rage or feeling the deepest parts of your heart where there's grief or sadness.
Mhm.
Ah, it's so delicious to experience, but
Mm.
can be so scary for people that haven't ever fully allowed themselves to go there for whatever reason, whether it's patriarch or religion or their societal programming or whatever.
Mm.
That I want to create more opportunities for people to be able to experience that, to see that it's not weak. It's actually creates so much strength and courage
That's
and
right.
connection.
I'm so glad you said that. That's another huge part of this whole thing, right? Because the conqueror thinks that if it admits defeat,
Yeah.
admits, wow, yeah, I can't ever fully conquer, that it's, some kind of humiliation and failure. And it's actually the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually true power.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually courage. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually where intimacy with life happens, where intimacy with
Mm.
the divine happens. There's this Rumi poem where he says, the doorway to God is in the shape that you make when you are on your knees.
Mm.
I love that. The doorway to God is in the shape that you make when you are on your knees.
Mm.
So, the way that I define the feminine is just it's the immanent face of God. She's the immanent, that's the goddess, the divine that's within matter,
Mm-hmm.
body, form, incarnation. And so we experience her, we experience the divine intimately in the embodied present moment, the embodied present moment. Not meditating into awareness
Mm-hmm.
and consciousness on the top of a mountain and
Yeah.
dissociating from our body, not praying to something out there, but coming right in
Yes.
here. So just
Yes.
like you were describing, like, how kind of what I got from what you were saying was almost like you're surprised almost each time you go into this place how rich it is,
Mm-hmm.
how beautiful it is, how divine it is, how sacred it is. And you're like, oh, this is what life is about.
Yeah.
Me, I would say that's because you're coming into intimacy, like
Yes.
embodied present moment intimacy with life.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I love that you're using the word intimacy. That's been a word that I've just embraced and come to this place of so much appreciation of what that word means. And I had actually done a plant medicine ceremony. This was year or two ago, and my intention was I wanted to experience intimacy with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought of intimacy was bliss and orgasm and joy and ecstasy and all this stuff. And I got the opposite. The whole ceremony was being what I saw as tortured with my wounds and my old stories and experiences. And I felt really defeated. I felt like I didn't get what I wanted. And I left the ceremony a couple days later, and I happened to stumble upon an article, and at the top of it, it said intimacy, all in capital letters. So of course, there's no coincidences. So I'm like, oh, I need to read this because this is the word. And they broke it down. Intimacy, into me, see. And I didn't even finish the rest of the article because it didn't matter. That was the part that I needed to see
Mm-hmm.
and realize that intimacy is so much more than orgasm and bliss. It's
Mm-hmm.
all of it. It's all of me. It's going deep, deep, deep within me and seeing all of me and having this deep intimacy with self
Mm.
and in every nook and cranny of me or
Mm.
whoever it is that you're having intimacy with. And so we really pinch ourselves off and cut ourselves off from the deliciousness of what intimacy is when we think of it as just this one thing, which is where I had seen it. And so it just opened up this whole new exploration into intimacy and this desire to want to be more intimate with myself.
Mm. Yeah, there's a certain kind of bliss and a certain kind of pleasure and a certain kind of satiation that arises when we are present, when we're willing to be present with all of it,
Mm-hmm.
full spectrum, the totality.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different kind of, it's very rich, it's very fecund. Yeah, it's different than the, could call it the pleasure and the beauty of the dark. It's the richness of all the density, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the lightness, but
Mm-hmm.
the full spectrum of how life can touch us. I think that's another part of the sacred wound of incarnation, actually,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's like instead of trying to dominate life, we consent to being touched by life.
Mm-hmm.
Life touches us all the time. I mean, I think you love the poetry album, so the track "Beloved Death," right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so good.
The way that we don't think about like how we're gonna die. We're just like, don't think about that. That's like a bummer,
Mm-hmm.
That's like bad vibes, low
Yeah.
vibes. But if we actually turn towards it, oh, I'm going to die someday, and I don't know when. If we really open to that in that embodied tantric way where we're letting life touch us, the preciousness of life just comes pouring in. The sacredness of life just comes pouring in. It's like, wow, I'm here, I'm alive right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to be forever. The sacredness and the preciousness and the beauty, right, just becomes so evident and so immediate. And that's what we need, I think, is a remembrance of the sacredness of
Mm-hmm.
literally what it is to be incarnated, to be alive, not to be a infinite, deathless, eternal consciousness, which is what everybody wants to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The
I,
religions and spiritualities they've
mm,
literally called this realm an illusion.
mm-hmm.
You see how
Mm-hmm.
deep it is. Our lives, our human lives, our incarnated lives, the realm of the goddess, the realm of the feminine, because it's so fragile and so tender and so impermanent, let's just call it an illusion
Mm-hmm.
and just reach for the eternal.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that matters, is the eternal.
Mm-hmm. There's this deep desire to get somewhere else,
That's
and
it.
and we're missing the gift of exactly where we are.
Right.
And I feel like for me personally, when I can really drop here, there's got to be a slowness and such a deep presence with where I am now, because that really truly is all that exists. And so many times we can get so caught up in where we need to go, that conqueror, and what we need to accomplish, that we miss where we are in this moment. One thing that happened right before we got on this call was this, in your backyard, I guess, or maybe your front yard, there was this whirlwind of wind that picked up all these tumbleweeds, and you paused me so that you could fully take it in. You're like, wait, hold on. And you just, I mean, to watch your expression, and you're just, I didn't know what it was that you were even witnessing, but I knew that it was something so juicy and so amazing. And then you reflected back to me what it was that you were taking in. And it's that, it's that, just really, really just allowing yourself to fully take in all that you're experiencing right now in this moment. And it can be something so simple as just stopping and just pausing and looking at a flower and just taking in the beautiful petals, and that the smell and the perfection of its imperfection, and or it can be something grandiose, but it doesn't even matter what it is. But just the more that you can be here, you get to fully understand the deliciousness of all of your experiences. And then everything becomes
Touch us.
amazing.
I'm so glad that you spoke to that. And what you just said is actually so important. And this might be a really beautiful, final thought.
Yeah.
So the way that I have read this, the collective spell of the conqueror in the era of patriarchy, this disconnection or demonization or devaluation of the feminine, and the way I've tracked it in my own being and then tracked it in the collective, is that it's such an exquisite paradox. So that conqueror, that one in us that's always going to the thing, where's the goal, gotta fix, gotta go, gotta do, where's, reaching for the goal, the end that never comes. The very thing that it is seeking is the quality of nourishing fulfillment that is the feminine, that only happens in this embodied present moment. And it's unconditionally available. Yes. Meaning it doesn't matter what's happening. This embodied present moment holds the nectar. Everything we've been seeking, literally right here, literally right under our nose. There's this is it in the Dzogchen maybe, or it's the Tao Te Ching, I can't remember, but it's basically the truth is so close you can't see it. So simple you can't believe it.
It's so true.
So close you can't see it. So simple you can't believe it.
And once you get it, you can't not get it.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you don't fully that you're able to be so present and so in every moment. And no, because we're human, we get caught up in things, and we create meaning and attachment and resistance and all this kind of stuff. But there's just this, once you get it, you can't unget it. And so it becomes a little bit easier to come back to that. Okay, what matters is right now. And I get to create such a sacred, beautiful moment in this now, no matter what it is that I'm experiencing. And that's so it's so delicious to be able to come back to that remembrance a little bit quicker, the more that I am just committed to
Mm.
just being alive and just
Yeah.
experiencing this life more.
Mm.
um,
Being available for
Being here.
life to touch you.
Yes. Yes. And I love being touched.
Mm.
So I love that. I love that description. Yeah.
Yeah, so the sacred wound of incarnation, being incarnated, being broken down out of the universal, cosmic oneness, totality, broken down into this sacred separation, this sacred body, this sacred me that I am in this life, and the raw, open cut of being willing to be touched by life in all the ways that life is always touching us.
Mhm.
And it's courageous, it's not weak, and it's actually the fulfillment that we crave in our seeking. How about that?
Done. I mean, it's just, there's been so many mic drops, and I feel like that's like the final mic drop.
I'm so delighted just to be with you, and that you can meet me and understand me. It's really, really, really a gift. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. This was such a beautiful conversation. I'm changed from it, and I know that those who come across it will also be changed in such a beautiful, magical way of just desiring to be touched more by life, whatever it is and however we're being touched, that it's all sacred, it's all beautiful,
Yes,
and gets to be experienced.
I would love if you wanted to share. I have um, an album on Spotify,
Mhm.
different than what you've been listening to. It's a collection of teachings and embodiment practices to
Yes.
do exactly this: how to get inside of our embodied present moment and really meet that, what I call
Beautiful.
feminine.
So what's that track?
It's an album, so
Oh, okay.
if you just look for me, Maya Luna, on Spotify,
Mhm.
you'll see Holy Darkness, which is the poetry album that you
Mhm.
love. And then there's one other album, which is called, I mean, you'll see it. It's the deep feminine current embodiment practices.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I in the show notes, I'm going to share ways that people can connect with you, your website, and anything that you're currently offering, so that they can get more of your juiciness and your wisdom and energy.
Yay.
Yeah.
Can I just
Thank
say
you.
one more thing before we
Yes, please.
So one of the things I'm really passionate about is, really, I do hold circles and spaces that are just for women, and I think that's really important, that women get to gather together in that way. But this whole deep feminine thing, this deep feminine spiritual path, this resurrecting the path of the goddess, this re-anointing and making sacred what it is to just be an embodied, incarnated human being. This is for everyone.
Mhm.
It's not just for women.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that. It is so true. The feminine isn't equal to woman.
No,
Yeah.
no, and in fact, that album that I mentioned, the free album on Spotify, which has all the embodiment practices and the little teachings, I've had more men reach out to me than women, I think, and just be like,
Mm.
"Thank you so much. This is, they're really in it and they're doing it." Um, and again, this is like, feminine is one of these words that I've also committed to, washing the patriarchy off and
Mhm.
presenting it in its true form. So it feels important to say
Yeah.
that everyone is disconnected from the mother. Everyone wants to come home, and
Mhm.
all of us are welcome.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for who you are.
Mm.
And just thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, love. And everyone, have a beautiful, beautiful day. Mwah.
Bye.